My name is Eileen Conn, and I was a civil servant in the UK government for many years. I've lived in Peckham in Southwark for the last almost 50 years, and I've been involved most of that time in one way or another with local neighbourhood actions on behalf of residents, mainly on topics to do with planning, the built environment, policing and community engagement. Southwark has the highest proportion of land owned by council because it's been such a large council housing borough, which in my time in the borough has reduced significantly because of government policies. But also they're not very good managers of housing, so it's not all wonderful. But in the current situation we're in now, with such a housing crisis in London, the situation's changed. I mean, who in their right minds now would argue for a reduction in council housing when the key need is for housing that people can afford, and the development industry is not building it. I think there are two particular reasons why public land, in my experience, are crucial. It's a public asset. It's something that belongs to the public. It belongs to all of us. It's not for disposal, for raising some money for a budget gap next year, but it's being used like that. And that's terrible. It's a public asset. Because it's a public asset and because it's owned by the local government system, it means that they have responsibility for changing the behaviour of others who hold land. And if they've got public land themselves, they can set an example and say, this is what you should be doing because we're doing it. We're showing you how it can be done. So to dispose of the public assets reduces significantly the local government's ability to be an exemplar for how you do these kinds of things. And in particular, of course, how you should engage the community. But of course, the council is one of the worst offenders in how you should engage the community. But it has its potential. And it's interesting that the latest campaign that's emerged, I wouldn't say spontaneously, because somebody did something to trigger it off, but it was like lighting a piece of dry wood, and the fire grew instantly across the borough in the last few months on what the council is doing on its public land at the moment to build 11,000 new council homes. It's in some of that, which sounds fantastic, and of course everybody supports that as a policy, but they're doing it in the worst possible way, which is to build on the open spaces in current council estates, which are important for biodiversity and human sanity, especially as we know now through the pandemic. And the other terrible place they're wanting to build is on top of existing blocks, where people are all living, condemning them to 2 to 3 years and more of terrible disruption and probably bad building, which will cause all kinds of problems. And these are people who actually are not just council tenants, but they're council leaseholders who sunk their life savings into buying leases in previously only council tenanted buildings. So this is a disaster in the making. It's not surprising. And the wonderful thing is that Southwark Planning Network played a small part in this, but shows the power of the networks and the links at horizontal level, that there's now a massive campaign bringing together everybody who's got some part of the jigsaw in this, in the community, whether it's climate emergency, council housing, looking after vulnerable people, biodiversity, planning issues, you name it. Everybody can see how their bit of the jigsaw fits with everybody else's, and in different neighbourhoods across the borough, and not just on estates, but also outside estates where little bits of green and open space are also threatened. And that's now a major campaign. And what is the thing that's bringing it all together is the council's ownership of land. So that's a demonstration. And the council's now a bit on the back foot because it's not consulting anybody really about should it do this, but how it might do it. So again, it's after the decisions are taken, it's too late to involve people whose very blocks where they have their flats are going to be built on and built against, losing all their open space and sky outside their own windows. I mean, and there's no proper engagement process for that either. But there is some leverage for the community because the council owns all the land that this campaign is now about, is owned by the council. And remember what I said, that we're coming into the most important part of the election cycle. So there is this campaign was not designed to meet the election cycle, but it's come at the right moment because people who want to be elected and take decisions in this borough about how this borough is managed are asking for our votes right now. They have to pay more attention to what people say than they would at the rest of the 3 years of the election cycle.